I got one little treat for. Hold on. There it is. There's. For everybody who is tuning in today, especially today, say we took last week off because it was my birthday, but a year ago from last week, Grace, she gave me Tony Starr's first arc reactor. So I got it here on display. I don't even know if y'all can see it clear. Grace, can you see it?
I see it.
Perfect.
Those who know what it is.
I want to see, honestly. I just want to see what it looks like. I want to see what it on the big screen.
It's like a nice little glowy thing in the center, which is so perfect.
Boom. There it is. All right. Cool. Awesome. All right.
I love it.
Okay. Well, Grace, I am. Give me 1 second, but tell us, how have you been? Talk to us.
I've been good. It's been so long. Guys, we have so many amazing shows coming out. Like today we're talking about Sandman and we're talking about She-Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
But I just realized I think it's this Sunday, the new Game of Thrones spinoff. What is it called? I'm like skipping on the name, but I think it releases this Sunday. Do you know? Can you confirm?
That I don't know. I just know it's pretty much more so all about House Targaryen.
Yeah,
I wish if it were called
it is.
Targaryen, I would understand. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's called House of Dragons.
Yes,
There you go. House of
gotcha.
Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's coming out on Sunday, and I'm just like, oh my goodness! All of the like streaming services like decided to like release this all in like the same weekend, etc. I'm so pumped.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it, but say, see, cause I'm kind of missing Westworld 2 right now, and I watched all of last season, but I missed like this whole entire season. It's about to be the season finale, or it just passed, or this weekend. So I gotta catch up on Westworld and start on that.
See, my partner is like super big in that. I'm the worst because I'll stay home on the couch watching Westworld, and you gotta really pay attention. Like you can't, be
You
doing.
do, you're right.
You can't really be doing like something else as you're watching it, and so
Right.
I come in being like all needy.
He's like, what was that?
He's just,
Who is
like,
that?
he's like the sweetest, but then it's just like you can tell in his eyes. He's like, I am in my zone.
Right, I gotcha.
I don't want to cuddle with you. I'm paying attention.
Yeah.
But I've been hearing it's super good. And you're a big fan, like long
Yeah,
time
yeah,
fan. Like,
long
you have
time fan,
stickers.
because I was when the first season came out, I honestly didn't know it was a remake because I think it was a movie initially way back when, and I just watched it purely out of curiosity, and it was like from season one. It's a good show. It got me hooked. So I gotta catch up for sure. Cause somebody just told me, it's like, this season was better than the last, and I thought last season was the best so far. So we're
And
gonna
Valkyrie's
see.
in it. Is she,
She is.
Tessa Thompson, has she been in the prior season?
I would say, cause this is season 4. I think she actually last season, I believe, is her. Actually, no, the second season she came in.
Oh, she's been on for a while. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you, it's like show season. I don't know. There's so many cool shows happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously we've been so excited to talk about She-Hulk, but I was surprised at how much I loved Sandman.
Yeah.
Like, did you go past the first episode? Because I know we're just
No,
talking
I
episode
honestly,
one for
I
both,
just watched. I watched episode 1 literally maybe an hour ago. So, so I've only
It was
watched
good.
one.
It was good.
Yeah. How about yourself?
But, ooh, I watched them all last night. It has
You watched
been,
them
like,
all?
Such. Oh no! I'm sorry. Like as in both the first episodes of both shows.
Oh, I was like,
last
damn,
night.
you binged through Sandman? Hold on,
Didn't
damn.
sleep at all. Sandman did not visit me.
Yeah.
No, but I watched the two episodes
Mhm.
last night. I really liked them. I wish I had more time to watch more, but I watched them kind of late in the evening. We actually, because I got the Spider-Man like deluxe extended version DVD a while ago.
Mhm.
our Xbox hasn't been like working for some reason. And so I've been needing to download it on my phone because they give you like a digital download, and I finally did it. So we were watching
Do you
Spider-Man.
normally you buy off of Xbox as opposed to hard copies?
This is the first time I have bought like like a DVD in like over a decade. Has to be, maybe more. I have not bought a DVD. I know you have like your collection in the back. I
Yeah,
have not
like
bought a
it's
DVD in
like me
forever.
feeling more so nostalgic. Now it just makes sense. Like, damn, she doesn't even have a collection. Am I lame? You know what I'm saying? Like,
No,
it's just like every time
no.
something comes out, I try just to, I don't know, add to it. It looks
We
cool to
all
me.
have our things.
Yeah, yeah.
I think so. I think so.
Mhm.
No, but yeah, so I'm excited. Oh, but before we even get into any more of the nitty-gritty, I wanted to show you. So ready? I got a gift
Mhm.
like last week. Okay, you're gonna die. All of you know I'm like a sucker for Funko Pops. I have a
Mhm.
very exclusive collection. Ready? I hope the glare isn't too bad.
Is that
Do you
is
see
that
this?
Wonder Woman?
It's Wonder Woman. She's like stepping on a skull. She
Oh,
looks
I can't
so
see that from
cool.
here. My screen is too small. It's not you. You don't
No,
have
but just for everyone,
to
just for
for
everyone.
everyone's
But
effect.
it's one of those special editions that have like the comic book cover in the background. I've been wanting these forever. This is like a really sweet gift I wanted to shout out.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Thank you,
wait,
buddy.
now hold it closer because now I got you on the big screen. There it is.
Dude,
Wow. That's
it is
pretty
so
cool.
cool.
Look at that.
And just so you guys get the comparison, like I'll get my Mighty Thor to compare the size. Like these are ginormous.
Right. Well, like the
Huge.
Funko is the same, it's just the box and display is just bigger than normal, right?
Yes, yeah, like the whole, because it's like the display with like the comic books. I think the
Yeah.
comic, it's not like the actual comic book, it's just the cover, but it's like of like the standard size, so then the whole package is kind of bigger. But
Gotcha.
it's so cool, added to the collection.
Cool,
That's
cool.
what's happened in the past
Look
week.
at that. And now, when it comes down to your collection, all we gotta do, wherever this is, this nook is, let's get a shelf. You know what I'm saying? And get like,
There's,
cause right
I
now,
gotta figure
I
it
see
out.
I see Harley right now, and I see She-Hulk, boom, right there in the background. I know you got more Funkos over there, so.
I have a pile.
Mm-hmm.
It is ginormous. We still have yet to go. It's almost been a year that we did the big move,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
I've
yeah,
been
yeah.
promising like a nook ever since,
Yep.
and it just hasn't happened yet.
That's
There's been other
wild.
things in the works, you
Like,
know?
cause you saying that, it just reminds me that we kind of moved around the same time. Like, I moved to my place and you as yours, and it's already almost been like a year. Like October, you know, it's already here.
Dude, time flies so fast. I was telling my partner, I was like, dude, I wish we got a longer lease.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Um,
Yeah.
so I kind of want to give you a quick breakdown of the shenanigans before we get into Sandman and all that. So like I mentioned before, we did take some time off, took a week off. I had some friends from out of town from Oregon come. It was a husband, wife, and child. And when it came down to it, it was like almost kind of like a B-Day week because let's say that Monday it was the child's second birthday. Then my birthday followed on Wednesday, and the mom's birthday was on Thursday. So like all week long,
Wow.
we were just eating a ton, celebrating, and having a good time.
Dude, that's amazing. I love how you see the child like it's Grogu.
Wait, what do you mean?
No, because you're like the child's
Oh yeah,
birthday.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, like, it was
Gotcha,
just really
gotcha,
funny. Yeah.
gotcha.
That sounds
Mm-hmm.
so cool, though. Was it like strategically planned to be that way since all your birthdays were kind of in the same mix, or did it just like coincidentally ended up that way?
Honestly, it was like say, Yadir, she had been planning this for a while for those friends to come because those initially are her friends, right? I forgot about the child being born in August because I've known them since the baby's been born, and then I remember the wife saying that her birthday was like right after mine, but that was like initially on the first day that I met her, and that was maybe like 3 years ago. So for my birthday, honestly, I as far as plans go, I honestly wanted to chill. Like I was just like, this year I've already kind of been doing a lot and everything. This year I just kind of want to hang out and chill, do whatever. But when this kind of plan came together of everybody coming over, it was like, okay, I guess it's kind of more so a coincidence, and we can just do whatever. So it's like, say the first day they got here, like they got here on a Tuesday. We went to. Have you ever heard of El Cocinero in Van Nuys?
No, I have not actually.
Okay, it's a good Mexican restaurant on Sepulveda. We did that on Tuesday. Wednesday we went to the beach. I think Playa del Rey, a little further south from Venice, and then that Thursday we chilled in Culver City, and then from there the family left. But then that Friday was our boxing gym's fight night, so like the whole week was pretty eventful, you know. So I'm chilling for the rest of August.
I was gonna say you've
I
done
don't want
enough.
to do
You
anything
probably just
else.
want to chill for the rest. Yeah, yeah. No, I hear that. I
Yep.
do. That sounds like such a fun time, though. I'm so happy you get to celebrate like the whole week. It sounds really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
love that.
So that was me. We've all caught up, and now switching gears, because today we're just chatting. I didn't even get a chance to set up any backgrounds for either show, so we're just gonna continue to chat. So what would you like to chat about first, Sandman or She-Hulk?
I am like so good with either.
Let's talk about Sandman first
Let's
because
do
it's so
Sandman.
fresh
Yeah.
right now. Um, I'm gonna say, for starters, I started it yesterday, and honestly, the first 5-10 minutes, it was a little slow for me, and it almost kind of turned me off to where I didn't. I stopped it after that, and then today I rewatched it, and watching it in full. Even that first 10 minutes, it actually made more sense watching it again, just so I can have a better understanding. That made me pretty much enjoy the rest of the show, and it turned out to be still for at first super weird, but it was good. I'm not gonna lie, it was good.
I think whenever you get into something like a new show, especially where like the lore is so heavy, I think it's always that like learning curve of like, okay, like what are the worlds? What are the
Mm-hmm.
beings? What are the parameters we're kind of playing with? And so I think I felt kind of similar within the first few minutes, but also I was like trying to multitask as I watched it, which I quickly learned I couldn't.
Yeah.
So I did the same thing. Like I rewinded it and then I watched it through, and I definitely had a much different experience. So I think you just
Right.
really do have to sit down for it. More so because it's not like we're watching a new Batman film where it's like we have an idea of like the character, the lore, the backstory, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I was so pleasantly surprised by how much I liked it, and I think generally like I'm seeing a lot of really good reviews and responses. This first episode was very, I think, gloomy, but
Sure.
from the trailers and some other things we've been hearing around, it does kind of lighten up a little bit. Like it seems like there's comedic components kind of, dabbled throughout and things like that too.
Um, say I was talking to somebody earlier this week, and it like in talking to this person, the conversation that we had, it almost made me kind of hesitant in watching um a show like this, just because like we were chatting about how shows, like you see like a trailer or something like that, and it reminds you of an older show, and because of that you're kind of just like, I don't really want to kind of watch it, just because I feel like it's like a remake of that, you know.
Hmm.
So like the show we were talking about, I forgot the title of it, but it reminded us so much of, let's say, of like a Lord of the Rings or a Harry Potter joint. It was like it seems cool, but it feels like I've already seen this. But
Hmm.
now here with Sandman, I watched the trailer, and I'm seeing creatures and a whole bunch of stuff like that on some mystical. And as I understand it, this is like a mystical show, and it has things like this, but I didn't know what to expect. And being that I've only seen episode one, I would say I was pleasantly surprised, to the point to where now I do want to continue to see more, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I love this idea that we have like the waking world, and then his realm, right? Sandman's realm, where he's basically the king of nightmares and dreams, creator of, etc. And he controls them from basically bleeding into like the real world, which
Right.
is what we immortals call it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Causing mayhem, which we see is like essentially the catalyst for him leaving the safety of his kingdom into the real world.
Yeah.
And before he leaves, right, I forget the name of this character, but she's kind of like his second hand in command, right?
I don't even think we
Um,
got. Actually, we got the name at the very end
at the
because
yes,
he repeated it. Yeah, yeah.
I
I
might
just
actually
don't
have
remember
it.
it.
Lucine,
Lucien.
Lucien,
Yeah.
Lucien. I
Mm-hmm.
pronounced it wrong, but I wrote it right.
I gotcha. Yep.
And she kind of has like there's like a foreboding of like you may not come back. Like she sends something to well, one, but we had the sensation that something bad was going to happen. Like he wasn't going to return to his realm.
Right.
And I don't know, just like the way that they kind of painted the world from the beginning. I like the wording. It's like as if your waking lives are all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
And also there's this one thing that says where is it? I don't know. They just had really nice dialogue that I liked. That was kind of cool, to
It
imply
was.
that. Oh,
Oh,
go
my
ahead.
bad. I'm sorry. No, continue.
No, just like the way that they kind of the dialogue and discussion with like the waking world versus like dreams and nightmares, and how obviously we put emphasis on like when we're awake, that's our lives, not like when we're in our dreams or when we have nightmares.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really cool. I think it's this one. Okay, when the waking world leaves you wanting and weary, sleep brings you here. I don't know, the way that they wrote it was just kind of cool. Like I liked that language.
Say I like it in the fact that like it's almost reminiscent as far as the narration goes for me. It reminds me a lot of the film Interview with Vampire. Have you ever seen that?
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
like
Hmm.
he's almost, I don't want to say mimicking, but it's like his narrating is it's like of uh Lestat, Brad Pitt's character from that movie, and it just seems interesting how he's talking to us because coincidentally the show that or both shows that we're talking about today we're gonna get to a little bit more, and She-Hulk is kind of breaking that fourth wall. But here, this I don't even know. I don't know. I want to just call him the Dream God or whatnot. Does he have a name?
I
Yeah.
mean, we can assume it's Sandman, but that's
Oh
how
right,
we're
Sandman. That's true.
right.
True. True.
But
True.
he does actually, something they do give a name because keep in mind. So we'll kind of go back into this in a bit, guys. But Roderick, like the guy who summons him, he's trying to summon death.
Mm.
But as we learn, death has a family, and part of that family is who we're referring to as Sandman.
Mm-hmm.
But in the episode, they referred to him as, hold on, let me
Like
see.
endless dream or dream of the endless or something like that.
Yeah, I think you're on it. I think you're on it. Okay, okay. So this is like the way they say it, Death's family. There's desire, destiny, despair, and then they just say dream. And then later they say something like dream of the endless, and then they kind of just use endless. So who knows like what the name that they're going to utilize for this
Mm-hmm.
character throughout the show. But I think it also kind of falls in line to some things that we've discussed in our like Marvel lore and breakdown, and how they kind of overlayer these different mythologies, and
Mm-hmm.
how there's different names for very similar things. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of what we're seeing here, which is it's cool, because I think that's so true. Like we have so many names for something that's so similar, especially when you look at different cultures.
Right.
So I like that they're kind of using all these names to refer to just one being.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't even know where do we leave off. Sorry.
The intro.
We're still at the
well,
intro, but oh
well,
yeah, I
from
was
the
talking
intro.
about like the narration, and then from there, where do you want to take it? We can take it somewhere new here.
Okay, well, let's take it into the waking world.
Okay.
So once we shift into the waking world, and I do love this transition because it transitions from the narration in the dream realm
Mm-hmm.
into the waking world by someone waking up. And I just love the way that kind of pulls you into that segment of the story. I thought
Mm-hmm.
that was so good. And we meet a couple people. So we meet Dr. Hathaway, who comes from a museum. It seems like he had like a prior conversation with Sir Roderick, who owns this big mansion. He
Mm-hmm.
likes to be called the Magus, which means sorcerer. And both of these guys have a common ground that they've lost their young, like their boys, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and they want to summon death to basically force death to bring those kids back to life. And this is kind of the chaos that sets up the rest of the story, and the series really.
But see, what's really crazy about this episode, especially it being the first episode, right? Um, Coincidentally, like I want to say whoever wrote this, like, kind of Game of Thrones this, and coincidentally, the guy from Game of Thrones, the head Lannister, is like the main guy in this episode. And say when it comes down to it, I really like this episode specifically because we watched a full hour of a story that now no longer exists. If you kind of get what I'm saying,
No,
like.
I do, and I think the way you said it was so perfect. Like they Game of Thrones us, right? Because I think Game of Thrones did something, and we've talked about this so much. Like, well, not so much. We've had like a really lengthy conversation about it once, about how like they did something that's very unique in storytelling, where they lead you to believe, and they did it over like seasons,
Mm-hmm.
that oh, this is the main character, or this is part of the main storyline, and then soon to find out that that prince is now dead, and then it's like, okay, well, where do we go from there in a sensation? And part of it was, I think his name is Alex, right? The young
Yeah,
boy.
yeah, yeah.
Roderick, who we assumed would be like the main antagonist, but he kind of dies like midway through the episode, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that was a perfect term to use for it. Yeah.
It's just wild. Like I wasn't expecting it. Like I was hoping to see, like I guess these characters, like you said, like because I think no matter what, whatever show that we watch in any show is like if especially if it's something brand new, we're looking for something almost to kind of like attach to. Be like, okay, this is this person, this is their journey, and now I want to see where the rest of the show goes with this young kid, like, and now fast forward in episode one to where now the young kid is an old man, and now he forever is asleep, so it's just wild that with that now I'm curious to know, are each episode gonna have similar, it's like I know the story I feel like is gonna be, because they kind of gave us like a little some snippets towards the end of this episode, but I wonder if it's gonna be more so about the other gods as opposed to humans on Earth in Dreamland. Oh no, in the real world.
I'm not sure. I see what you're saying. Like if they're gonna kind of hoodwink us maybe a couple more times with the with what they did in this first episode.
Right.
Maybe. I'm not sure. It's kind of like for me at the end of the episode, I really feel like one of the main characters to merge is actually going to be a character we kind of maybe have we looked over in the beginning. The I'm gonna her she's like the mistress of Sir Roderick. I have her name.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Hmm. Oh, Ethel.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well,
So
her
Ethel. Oh, go ahead.
spawn, I would assume, because like if she's still in the picture, she's aged tremendously.
Yeah. Well, okay. So Ethel, she appears like after a decade of the Sandman already being captured,
Right,
right?
right.
And she comes looking for the Magus, and she kind of lives in comfort, not a happy life like you can see, but she becomes pregnant, and the Magus is trying to get her to get rid of the pregnancy. She doesn't seem like she really wants to, so she runs off. But she runs off with not just like a fortune of, like, I think if they said $10,000, something significant.
Like two
um
hundred thousand.
Something like that, yeah, like a very significant amount of money, as well as the items that Sir Roderick originally got from the Sandman, which was like the little pouch of sand.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see, I got it written down. See, I didn't highlight my notes this time around, and it makes a difference. It makes a difference. But she takes the money. she takes the helm, the pouch of sand, the Grimalt, and the ruby. All of these items were items that Sir Roderick had used to build his own power, right? And really solidify himself as like a sorcerer in the eyes of like people around him. But now she's taken it away,
Right.
right? But when she leaves off, and she kind of has this like almost like sinister conversation with her baby where she's just saying, like, my mother told me a story about this guy who like sprinkles sand in your eyes and like your dreams come true, but in reality we have to be the ones to fight for what we want. And it's funny that when she runs away with these items that same night, the man who seems to have caused her so much misery dies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I
Coincidentally,
feel like she did, yeah, like I still feel like she used it to somehow like
take away his luck or something like that.
do that. Yeah, like do that, or just like almost like create, like make a dream a reality in the real world, because she has all those items to do that.
Wait,
I
so
don't know.
do you
So I
think
feel
that
like she
was
might be a
her?
main character. I feel like that may have been her. Just coincidentally, she has the items. She has this talk with her son. Not talk, because she's talking to him, but he's not responding. But talk with her son, about just kind of like having to be the one to initiate, like no one's going to give you what you want, you have to like fight for it. And then
Mm-hmm.
it zooms into the items, which kind of leaves this foreboding sensation that she knows how to use them, or like like maybe she even recognized them from the stories that her mom told her when she saw it in the vault, and she realized, oh, like maybe this is how he got his powers, and so therefore I'm going to use it to kind of rewrite my own destiny. So I'm wondering, because you're like, oh, is she going to be old when we see her, or maybe the son's going to be the one really taking lead? Either of those are make sense, but I'm wondering if we're going to see her still young, because she like used it to some
Like, yeah.
degree. I don't know. I'm just excited because it's like we don't have answers, so all of this is pure speculation.
Right.
But I like it because I think they almost like make you think this is the focus of the story. Look and invest in Alex, and you kind of leave these little sprinkles of loose ends that end up becoming more relevant, like the demons who
Well,
came back at the end.
well, I would say, like, I like where you're going, but if anything, I think if there's gonna be a connection, there's gonna be some type of connection to the baby, being that the dad was like it's like his bloodline, you know. So I
Oh,
feel
sure,
like
yeah.
they can go in that route, be like, oh, you're actually related to the guy who held me prison for 100 years, so I'm gonna murder you
You're
now.
dead. I mean, it seems like okay, like he doesn't seem like referring to the Sandman. He doesn't seem what was I gonna say? It's not like he's evil, but he is kind of like he holds a grudge. Like, bro, you could have just been like, yeah, like I won't hurt you guys, and then been released 80 years before he actually did. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? Like, he's stubborn. So who knows? Like that theory that maybe he ends up going after now an older, like, you know, a grown baby,
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the bloodline, I think that could be possible because this guy does hold like a grudge and he is stubborn and all of those things.
Can I ask you something?
Hmm.
Like, say initially, when watching the episode, and the kid's name is Alex, right?
Hmm.
When Alex is asleep in the yard or whatnot, and is awakened by his future husband, do you feel like the husband came on super strong in that moment? Or like, it's like, you interrupted my sleep, fam. You want to talk to me about a book? Like, come on. Like,
I did sense I did sense the tension like right off the bat.
right,
Yes. Yeah. I felt that like I know what you mean. It's like, dude, you just woke me up. Like you can't go right into the
right,
the
right.
you
What
know
book you reading? Be like, I was napping, yo. Like, can you wait,
that's not the way to
please?
win my heart.
Right. I thought that was pretty funny.
It's pretty funny. And I like the partner seems so supportive. Like he's the one who is like trying to be, you have to mean it. You have to be genuine, like
Hmm.
trying to help him kind of repair the I will say like repair the relationship between the Sandmen, because Alex and the Sandman kind of had a little bit of they like similar experiences. Like they were both abused, neglected by the father, right, Roderick,
Mm-hmm.
and so they had common ground. And he had like a couple moments where he could have actually either like directly helped Sandman escape or, you know, allowed it to happen, right? Because he's the one who shot the Raven. So
Wait, you
it's
said? Did you say the Sandman abused, or he was
no, no,
abused
no,
by
no,
the
no. What
dad?
I'm saying is that the Sandman and the boy have like common ground because the father, right, Sir Roderick, was
Mm-hmm.
kind of like an antagonist to both of them.
Oh,
You know,
true,
like
true.
he captured the Sandman. He like we didn't see it fully, but you can assume that he also like beat him in several occasions because we saw him either like getting close to doing or whatever in many different situations.
Mm-hmm.
So they had like an area to be in common ground, and I think I don't know if you noticed it in like their first kind of direct interaction before the dad caught them, but they kind of had like I think the Sandman almost like smiled and they almost like made contact, and then like the dad came in, and then it just kind of all
Wait, when he said
went
he
to
was
hell
going to
from
release
there.
him?
Yeah, like it seemed like like the Sandman had like a sliver of hope, you know, and then after that he just like sank into despair and just was like, I'm I'm done with like whatever potential friendship that could have like brought, you know?
Right.
It was a lot.
It was a lot to unpack. I'm trying to think what else was there that really caught my eye. Honestly, I think, um, oh, the bird scene, right? The raven scene.
Yep.
That one, say when it came down to how and what happened to this raven. Okay, backstory real quick. For those who haven't seen it, I'm about to spoil it. But anyway, the Sandman, let's say, just has a best friend, a raven that pretty much always been on his body until he was captured at the very beginning of this episode. So this raven has pretty much been watching over this house this whole entire time. Um, the Magus was informed that the Raven would be a problem. So for 10 years, he's been after the Raven. And then fast forward. Uh, when the Magus found out his son, well, the son wasn't saying like he was going to release him. He was just kind of being sympathetic in that moment. But like say when it came down to it, the dad overheard that and then pretty much gave him the mission of prove that you won't release him by killing this bird. And initially the bird got out, got into the house, I mean, and found its way to the Sandman. And for a sliver of a moment, or at least I had some hope. I didn't know how the beak was gonna crack that shit, but I was hoping the beak was just gonna hit a point to where the glass just shatters. But the
It's
Raven
like,
shatters.
yeah, yes. And the thing is, it's like we feel so bad because in such like succession, you have these events that I think the Sandman gains like genuine hope of his escape. Right, first with the boy who then betrays him, and then secondly with the bird, and then the boy kind of very much betrays him by killing off his friend. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so you can so see why he was like even when he had a very easy way to escape by being like, yeah, I won't hurt you guys, let me go, he
Mm-hmm.
still was like, you know what? I'm gonna just stay here and be bitter.
Yeah. Well, if it came down to someone who is what I guess endless, meaning that they're immortal, right? It's like 10 years, 100 years. That's really like 10 seconds
10 minutes.
to them, you
Yeah.
know. So him chilling there, and who knows how long this Raven has been his best friend. It was the look that he gave Alex afterwards, like, cause he kind of teared up, like he had been silent the whole episode, but his eyes said, "I'm about to murder you if I get out of here for killing my best friend."
And he did even worse because he basically like stayed in silence, which caused Alex such agony for the rest of his life, right? Because it's
Mm-hmm.
almost like having an essence of like his father always there, because that was a result of his father's kind of, you know, hubris, greed, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And you knew it still bothered him to the end of his day because he's an old man in a wheelchair and he's still angry and frustrated at the Sandman for not allowing him to like just it's like such a complex thing, right?
Yeah.
And almost like in sense that was the punishment of like letting Alex grow old with this frustration, and then ultimately, once he has this opportunity to escape, putting him in this like endless sleep, you know?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, if anything, yeah, I agree. It wasn't that he didn't do anything. He did exactly what he wanted to do and just let Alex grow old and unsatisfied.
Exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
we didn't talk about a character who I think is also going to come into the foreground of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think his name is Corinthian. I'm just double checking.
You're
Yes.
correct. He
And
was he
go
was
ahead.
quote unquote I think named like at the very beginning, like his name is Corinthian, but like I don't want to say demon. I like the phrase that the Sandman used and called him like a nightmare, and the nightmare running loose in the what's it's not waking world. I don't know. Real life is like I don't know. I like that story. So yeah, Corinthian. I'm excited to see more for.
Yes, and I think Nightmare is perfect because that's exactly what this is. Like, being the king of nightmares and dreams, he's also the creator of both of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And so Corinthian, like he mentioned, he's like, "Oh, that's my creator." So he is a nightmare, and they do use the word like demon, but either way, I think works in this situation.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I love how we see him kind of disappear at the start of the story, right? He was about to be like dissolved into dust by the Sandman before he was summoned, right, by that spell.
Right.
And he's pretty much had like decades upon decades of time to just wreak havoc. And something we haven't talked about is this plague of like this endless sleep
Mm-hmm.
for millions and millions of people, since his capture back at the beginning of the episode. And that's obviously something that one, like he's gonna have to try to resolve, and two, having to capture Corinthian, who's had like decades upon decades of time to get stronger, like
Right.
master his like evil craft, and probably by then prepare for the inevitable moment in which Sandman escapes. Because at the end, it's not like he's stressed out, like, oh my god, he's here, I gotta go in hiding, etc. He seems kind of ready, like, oh, I knew this was gonna happen. He was calm, with
Yeah.
Corinthian when he sensed that like Sandman was free.
Mm-hmm. He was just
So
like, yep, he's free.
that's that.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Say when it comes down to like, I just looked up the actor for Corinthian. His name is Boyd Holbrook. I'm just gonna say so far he has had a good track record. And for me, I don't know anything before any of his work before the original Narcos, but like he was in that. He was like one of the main antagonists in Logan. He's a really good actor that's good at playing either good or bad. So seeing him here in Sandman as one of the nightmares, I'm already, and that's another thing that kind of secured me a little bit more as far as this show. Like, okay, this actor's kind of signed on, and he's done some good stuff. So, yeah, I was actually glad to see that he was in there.
Yeah, it gives you, it's like adding rapport to the story, right? Because
Right.
at least for me, there's not a lot of ties to draw me in. It's not like there's a major actor that like I love following like their career. It's not like I know the story
Right.
beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
So it is nice when you do see these characters that you're like, oh, I know who this dude is, or this guy's familiar.
Right.
And this particular nightmare is like an eye ripping kind of a nightmare, like kind of like Vecna from Stranger Things. Like, did
Right.
you get that vibe by the end of the episode?
I didn't get the Vecna vibes, but I can see your connection there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's just so familiar to me, and so that was really cool. Very creepy, and that's, I don't know. I'm just so excited to see it. I'm trying to think if I have other points from this episode. Oh,
Mm.
one of the things. So we discussed kind of like the aftermath with the endless sleep, right? The
Yeah.
mayhem that this nightmare has caused, leaving people with like without eyeballs, etc.
Right.
And but there's also the effect that it has on like his realm as well, the realm of Sandman, because it's
Right.
like the palace is in shambles. His staff has either like abandoned their post because they believe that he's abandoned them,
Mm-hmm.
or something like that. So the whole realm is just in chaos. So I can't imagine like being trapped for years and then coming back to find that people thought that you abandoned them. You know?
Well, let's come back to that. Like, well, actually, no. Let's attack it. Just because, first off, yes, I get it. You're immortal, right? You lived for an endless millennia. Who knows how long? But when it comes down to it, uh, a day is still a day. And here in human times, if you've gone missing for 24 hours, call the cops. You know what I'm saying? So say after a day, then month, then year. Faith, I can see where faith is lost, and then say 10 years gone. It's like, oh wow, he still hasn't shown. He just may just be chilling on Earth, doing whatever. He doesn't really care. And then 100 years goes by, and it's just like, yeah, if I'm the last person here, I'm out. I'm surprised to see Homegirl like his assistant there.
She is loyal.
Mm-hmm.
Loyalty. No, but and then some people did go looking for him, right? Some people went looking for him in the waking world. Some people were like, you know what, he abandoned us and we're just gone. Something that I find so interesting though is, so they when he's narrating the start of the story, kind of leading to his capture, he mentions that these are amateurs that basically were able to capture him.
Right.
And I find that so interesting. Like for these to be, but in his words, like amateurs, right? Like kind of like they don't understand the impact that they're making by doing what they're doing. They have so much hubris, et cetera, et cetera. Like they pretty much don't know what they're playing with. But yet they knew they were still able to capture this seemingly powerful like deity, Like I don't know. That's the part that I think is kind of interesting. And
Wanda
in
Maximoff
addition,
was an amateur. I'm just throwing that out there.
she's the Scarlet Witch. Don't even mention
She's
her
an
in the same
amateur.
sentence as such.
She's an amateur.
Get out of here. Get out of here. I'm gonna throw you into
She
like
just
the
started reading
forum.
the whatchamacallit, the book, you know what I'm saying? So she's an amateur.
Completely different. Completely different. Anywho, I'm gonna pretend like you didn't even say that. But I don't know. I just find that interesting, and not just that, but it's like okay, like I'm assuming I don't know, like is your staff magical? Like, are they just humans living in the like in this like magical realm? You also have like pretty powerful brothers and sisters. Your father is death. Like nobody comes searching for you. Your
Mm-hmm.
assistant doesn't have like your emergency contact number like that you fill out for school, to
Well, let's
it's
say
interesting
let's
to me.
say I think if anything, um, like, because now we're getting into the thought process of these beings, and like we said, they're all known as the endless, so if anything, they could have been like, "Oh, bro, my brother over here, he's taking 100 years off, but like he'll return soon." Because I feel like if anything, even though what I'm about to say is full speculation, I would feel like they would know if something happened to him, like if he died or something like that, you know. But being that like he was this off dream world for 100 years, I'm sure he was like they were just on some. He's alright. He'll be fine.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of like what you're saying. It's like we don't know the rules of the realm. We don't know like what like the connections, etc., or how that works and that
Mhm.
dynamic.
Mhm.
Um but it's also I think to add to that, the nightmare was able to sense that he escaped.
Right.
So I'm like wondering if like you know what I mean? Like but like and he also knew that he was captured. Like I would it's
I
interesting.
would think
Like
that
how
everybody would be able to feel something. Like, let's say if he died or something like that.
yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Well, we have so like most of this is like speculation, like we said. Like
This is
this
only
can go
episode
in
one,
so
ladies and gents.
many.
Yep, we
Yeah,
haven't
it
even
could go in so
watched the
many
rest of the
directions.
season. Is
It's
the whole
out.
season is out, right?
Yeah, the whole season's out.
Cool. Okay. Did you have anything else?
Not for the show. I think that's everything. All in all, super super cool. Like I have so many questions, and I really want to watch episode 2.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Two thumbs. Okay.
Thumbs up.
All right. So switching gears, we're going. Wait, before we switch gears, the reason why we're talking about this show, kind of familiarized me. Is it under the DC label?
It is. Hold on. I actually have it pulled up right here. And had it saved. Oh, led me somewhere else. Yes, it's under the DC label. Just to
Okay.
answer. Yeah. It's under the DC label. It's not in like I do not believe that it's connected to say the other DC projects like Batman and all of those things. I don't
Right.
believe it's of the same world from
Mm-hmm.
my understanding. And I believe it's on Netflix as a platform versus say HBO, which has like a relationship with like DC and all those things. Just I think by like ownership of name and title and things like that.
I think the only thing that I can think of that can like the only like I guess other material that can maybe possibly be connected to it, which is a stretch, but I would love to see is the story of Constantine, and he kind of works, not works in those realms, but like he's kind of on Earth, kind of dealing with these type of beings, you know. So I know that's a stretch. I'm sure it's not. I know it's not related, but being that it's a DC property, uh, that's just something I would love to see.
See, and I think it's like that Sandman was one of like the biggest DC Comics properties that like still hadn't yet been adapted to that point.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. It's cool that they're venturing into different elements. I know like one of your critiques that you always have with DC is like, why are you guys focusing on such like abstract projects when you can be developing like the DC universe, if you
Mm-hmm.
will.
Mm-hmm.
But it's I don't know. It's cool. It's cool, and I think it's like there's been a lot of fans of this comic series that have been like excited and waiting for this to come out. So it's cool to kind of dive into it, even though I don't have any like outside connections to it other than just watching this first episode.
I think honestly, just with us kind of saying everything so far, I think for me, it's DC, not Netflix or HBO, but DC has gone two for two in terms of giving a show or a show idea to a platform that has free range, like with HBO and the Peacemaker, and now Netflix and the Sandman, and them doing or being able to do whatever without any limitations that the CW will give you. It's like to me they've gotten two wins, you know.
CW zero.
Right.
I mean, like CW, okay, like The Flash, all these. I know, like, there's a huge fan base. I've enjoyed watching them, but it's like, oh, we talked about it so many times. It just lacks like the cinematic quality
Right.
that really locks you in.
Mhm.
Eventually it feels just like dull in comparison, and this doesn't feel like that. It has like a very gritty, gloomy feel, and it lives in a whole different world that I think they could kind of explore independent of other things that we've had without them having to necessarily overlap. And I think that's the freedom DC has had over Marvel for years. That sometimes they use it to their advantage. Sometimes it's just what to do in DC, and that's
Right.
more often than not. But yeah, this is good. This is a good hitter for DC for sure.
I would say it was the gloomy, gritty look. That's what initially turned me off at first because from the trailer, just the look of it, whether if it's the filter on the lenses or whatnot, but it was almost a little reminiscent of Game of Thrones to me. And I know it's totally different, but just like the actual look of it, it just kind of reminded me of similar looks in there. So I was like, okay, I hope this isn't on some same. I knew it wasn't just because of the title, but that's why me and the conversation I had with my client happened. It was just like it looked a little similar, but now I'm glad I watched it.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever seen the movie? I think it's called oh, it's like on the tip of my tongue. So, Hugh Jackman plays the Easter Rabbit. It's like animated. It's called, I think it's Rise of the
I'm sorry.
Rise of the Guardians?
No, I didn't.
No? Okay. I know the moment it's in animation, you're like, Grace, you already know I haven't seen it. But
No, you
it's
lost me
actually
at
really
Hugh
good.
Jackman as a rabbit. I was just like, yeah, nah.
It's actually a really cool film. It was one of my daughter's favorites growing up.
Okay.
But it's like it has Jack Frost, it has like, the Easter Bunny, it has all these different characters, but Sandman's also a part of it.
Mm.
And one of the villains, and I'm trying to actually think of the name because I'm wondering, the villain is like a nightmare, and he turns the Sandman's dreams into nightmares.
Oh
So it's
shoot.
kind of like two. It's interesting, but I kept thinking of it because of this. And although it's very different, it just had very similar like essence in the lore that I thought was really cool. I was just curious if you've seen it.
Well, you just saying that it already that last little line, turning dreams into nightmares. I think this show ended with, like once we found out that the dream realm has pretty much been shattered and deserted. Like I think he may have mentioned that like there are dreams and nightmares living in the waking world, which isn't good. And
Hmm.
who's to say that the dreams are becoming nightmares, on the real world, So you kind of
Yeah,
saying that, I'm just like, I can see that happening in the show.
yeah. Check out the movie, man. It's really good. It is really
What's it
good.
called?
It's called Rise of the Guardians, I
Is it
believe.
on any streaming platform?
I don't know. I should see because we haven't watched it in a while in my house, and my daughter would actually really love that. So you know what? I will look it up as we transition.
No,
Um,
it's okay because I was just gonna say I was gonna block it on that streaming platform.
dude, dude. Okay.
Listen,
First
I'm
of
I'm
all,
sorry.
hold on. You throw jabs at Wanda, which
hmm
the fandom will come for you. I'm just
I'm
saying.
with it.
I'm not even
I'm
gonna
with
do
the
it. It'll
smoke.
happen on its
Let's
own.
do it. I'm posting it. I marked the time. I was like, yeah, that's going on the gram.
Dude. And now Rise of the Guardians. Come on.
I wanted to throw it
So
back to your idea. Like, say everybody, Grace and I were having like a conversation through text, and she said she wanted to, I don't know, eat something on each episode, and then I just gave her a thumbs down. I didn't even respond, and she gave me like the salty like Kevin Hart meme. So
yeah.
I've kind of been giving Grace a hard time these last couple days.
It's like I haven't seen you in like 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be just like when I don't see my clients for a while, I give them like a really hard workout because I miss them so much. I'm just gonna say it's like that. I'll take it like that.
I think you should. I feel like if anything, I've told people, like only a couple people this, but if I throw jabs at you, it's because I like you.
Dude,
Okay.
you could no, actually hold on. That like guys, Chill has been like salty with me since we met. Like I remember when you would throw jabs, and like I didn't know. I was like, okay, like me, like I'm very sarcastic, So like I'm like, okay, cool. But then I remember one day I was like, dude, what if I'm thinking he's my friend, but in reality he actually really doesn't like me, and I'm all thinking he's my friend. But I've learned this of you, so no,
That's just me. That's just me.
it's comfort.
Yep.
It's
Mm-hmm.
home. Woo,
Okay. All
okay.
right, guys. I'm actually marking that the salt of chill. Sorry. But say, moving forward, we are going to now chat about She-Hulk. Okay. Now, I'm just gonna say, She-Hulk. I needed it. I needed She-Hulk just because of what Miss Marvel was. And because of how like I was left with Miss Marvel, I feel like them starting off strong like they did here in this episode, it was needed.
She-Hulk was so good on so many different levels. I feel like, I mean, obviously it has like that comedic element, but it's unique because it has like they've talked on the panel of a Comic Con, like it's very much like a lawyer show,
Mm-hmm.
like the way you would see other shows, but in the Marvel world. And I love how they gave us the interaction with like Hulk, and it filled in so many different gaps like in such a quick amount of time. It was so good. It was such a great first episode. Like I wish there was more because it was only 30 minutes, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But yes, agreed. I think I really loved She-Hulk. And I think, the animation looked amazing. The animation looked amazing, which a lot of people were
Looked
criticizing.
amazing. The animation looked amazing.
Now you're pushing it.
There it is. I gotcha.
But no, it was good. I'm very, very happy with how it came out.
Yeah, I was curious just to see where it was gonna go. Just because, like I saw something on Instagram. I don't remember if it was Nerdist or comicbook.com, but they mentioned something that um, this show, the fourth wall was going to be broken, and we got that in like the first 3 minutes of the episode.
Very Deadpool-y, but
Right.
very on the tune of, who were learning to be like Jennifer Walters. I think it's such a good introduction to her. I do love how we kind of jump in the middle of it and they throw out like and if, things don't go well in court, you can just like Hulk out.
Mm-hmm.
And then she segues into, all right, guys, so this is a show about lawyers, but I get it. You guys want the background. Let me give it
Mm-hmm.
to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then we segue into what the majority of the episode is, which is how she got her powers.
I think because Deadpool, the comics, in the comics, Deadpool broke the fourth wall, right?
All the time. Yes.
And they talked about how She-Hulk, she was actually the legit first to do it for Marvel before Deadpool. And I just find it interesting. Like, I would have never thought whoever creates comics or writes comics like that is just going to do that from jump. Like, I can imagine reading it and then you see the character just looking out, like out of the book off of the page, and you're like, wait,
Yeah.
am I reading the character talking to me? So I think it's super dope how even back then, whenever it came out, because I don't remember what year the first comic book came out for She-Hulk, but even back then, them breaking the quote unquote fourth wall through a comic book, I thought to be really dope.
It's always a fun read when you like experience it for the first time, or even like just experiencing it again and again. It's a really cool way for them to do storytelling,
Mm-hmm.
and I think cinematically, Deadpool is the one that we kind of immediately associate that with.
Right, right.
But yeah, like you said, like she's one of the first ones to actually do it, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's I don't know. I love that they continue to bring that element into the story because it's always great when they do it. Like they did it recently in the Multiverse of Madness super subtly, like when Wanda looks at the audience, which adds like this layer of like in her case very creepiness because you're connecting with the character on a
When?
different level, like
Wait,
breaking the
when?
fourth wall.
Tell us.
And you don't know the part I'm talking about,
What scene
Multiverse
are
of
you
Madness?
referring to?
Okay.
Referring to, I mean.
Ugh, I school you all the time. Chill. Look, in Multiverse of Madness,
Uh-huh.
when she enters like the body or like possesses the body of the Wanda that's in Earth.
838.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
When she like completely enters, she shifts her gaze towards the audience, like very plainly, like very Jim Halper in the Office type, but in like these creepy,
No! Oh,
like no, it is so
no!
plain. This is known. And but anyway, all I'm saying is that it's like both of those are examples of breaking the fourth wall, but it's such a different like effect. And in this
Yeah.
case, it's just like you feel like connected to the character and that she gets what you want. Like she tells like, all right, guys, I know. We can't really continue with the story until I fill you guys in, which is so opposite of Miss Marvel. 'Cause Miss Marvel, we kept like waiting and waiting and waiting for answers in a sense.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I'm
What you
sorry.
doing?
I'm writing the time just so I'm going to ask the question to the viewers, to the gram. Did Wanda break the fourth wall? I believe
You're
you.
gonna get canceled.
I believe you, but it's just something to post. Content, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Content. Yeah,
always,
exactly.
always. You gotta ring out the content.
For sure. So after the brief intro and then her breaking the fourth wall, yeah, you say they go into the backstory, but I don't know how I feel. Like, actually, I like it. I like it in the fact that she and, let's say, her DNA pretty much shat on the whole story of the evolution of the Hulk in one episode. It may have taken like 3 days of being in Mexico, and she's good, you know.
See, and that's the element that for me makes me dislike her so much to a degree when I was watching this episode, because it's like, I think the MCU has done something that even like the other Hulk films didn't do as well, in that we're really seeing how much being the Hulk has affected Bruce. I feel like the Avengers is such a great example. Especially with like how Tony talks to Bruce, and they kind of talk about his condition, and Tony, like that conversation that they have, like where he's like, that level of gamma radiation should have killed you. Like there's like a reason for this, and he's like, well, I guess we're gonna find out. I don't know, it's like you can see the despair that he has in himself and the disgust that he has, and how it's evolved to the point of like now he's blended the two together, and it's been such a journey. And she's like, I got it all. And she has like no respect for his experience to some degree. It's like, as a fan and as someone who's watched Hulk like
Mm-hmm.
through different actors, through different like decades, and his suffering, it's kind of salty. It's kind of salty.
That's why I
Um
said I don't know how I feel. Just because it's like I like it, but I like when it comes down to watching the Hulk over the years, like you've mentioned, you've kind of, or like I said earlier today, we attached to a character and we attached to the story of Bruce Banner, whatever actor it is, and him being on the run from the government, and then for her to summarize his whole entire life by saying that he's pretty much left his family. He joined to be like some type of government contractor, and have pretty much been avoiding his trauma for, I think she said like 15 years or something like that. Like in a nutshell, that's Bruce Banner, and it's like I said, it's cool that she was able to figure it out and flip it, but like I said, she kind of shat on his whole storyline.
Yeah, it's disrespectful. Like, it's very disrespectful. Like, because it's not like that at all. Like, he gave up so much. He gave up pursuing a family. He gave up pursuing his own life.
Mm-hmm.
And he's had to create all of these coping mechanisms to just live and accept both sides of himself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I completely agree with that feeling, because that's how I felt watching it.
Mm-hmm.
I do love how she does, when she does kind of explain her experience, and she's like, I've always had to do something like this to a degree, like having to, control my emotions so I'm not called emotional or sensitive or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I understand like what she's explained, that she's had the skills that he's maybe had to develop over time. However, it still hurts, because you kind of think of it from the perspective of Bruce Banner,
Mm-hmm.
which makes sense, because we've had years of Bruce Banner. We're just meeting Jennifer Walters. So I think that makes sense, and I think it's fine. Like, I like that they're not trying, I don't know, like I feel like we're going to love her in spite of that feeling, because by the end of it, I'm still all like, I'm excited. Like, I'm loving She-Hulk despite that kind of like conflict that she's had with Bruce.
Right.
And funny enough, so like in the comics, because they do so much here to kind of establish that She-Hulk is somewhat superior to Hulk. Like, one, that she can immediately control her transformations, her emotions, her
Mm-hmm.
triggers.
Mm-hmm.
Two, that she can like easily match his strength, and like to the point where Bruce is trying to like overexert himself to display like that he's still, you know what I mean, that he's still Hulk, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the comics, um, hold on, there's one that says, so Jennifer wasn't as strong as her cousin, but she maintained her intelligence as She-Hulk, unlike Bruce, right?
Yeah.
Bruce, he had that duality for a very long time before he was able to kind of mesh it in the lab.
Mm-hmm.
And she quickly learned how to her transformations, and eventually kind of embracing her green form, which is, I think, what we're really going to see in the show, because despite her ability to control all these things, she hasn't really accepted the fact that she is now a Hulk. Like, she kind of runs
Right.
from that identity still, which is similar to what Bruce did for a long time.
Well, like, yeah, initially when she found out that she was the Hulk and there's no real cure for it, she was like, okay, build that little thing that you had to keep him Bruce. And with it, it's like I get it. She's kind of running from the fact that now she is a Hulk, but she just went through something traumatic. She just saw an alien spaceship. Let's talk about that in a second. But
Yeah.
she just saw an alien spaceship that caused her to crash off a mountain, and then somehow ended up at a bar to where she was trying to leave, got picked up on, and then boom, hulked out. And from there wakes up in a strange tropical place, not knowing where she is, to come to find out that she is now a Hulk. You know what I'm saying? So all of this, though, yes, she can be able to quote unquote control her emotions, to control the transformation of being the She-Hulk. But at the end of the day, like you said, she is trying to like get away from the Hulk, but by the end of the episode to the courtroom scene, it was just pretty much unavoidable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like it's like those natural stages. It's like almost like the stages of grief where you're like in denial and you go through all these different things, anger or whatever. And so I love how we finish it because she's kind of she's forced to Hulk out because the villain comes to the doors, and I love how like which the who are you? She says Jennifer Walters, attorney at law,
Mm-hmm.
and then she just transforms back, and it's funny because in the comics she kind of uses that to her like advantage sometimes, the
Oh,
fact
is
that
that her
she's a
line?
Hulk. Not
Oh,
oh yeah,
gotcha. Never
like
mind.
just using the fact that she's a Hulk, kind of like nepotism kind of a thing, like using that fame to get
Mm-hmm.
things done. The way I think this is going to end up, it's like she has to defend her case. Not a lot of people believe in her, right? Like this, I think it's her coworker who says like, "Oh, don't mess this up." And I think it's going to be a completely different story once this is done because you know superheroes are like famous. Like everyone knows Cap, everyone knows like Hulk. They've
Mm-hmm.
learned to kind of really love him over
Yeah.
the years, and so it's I don't know, it's interesting. I think she may quickly find that kind of balance between the two.
Do you think, because now let's talk about Bruce's arm for a bit, because that pretty much debunked all of our predictions about the
Man.
blip and everything like that. But let's say, come to find out, when she finds out she's in Mexico, the whole kind of goes into explanation of their DNA and said her blood healed his arm. Now, with that being said, do you think being that her blood is in his system would help him be able to shift back and forth, or do you think that's just pure emotion and anger that's just going that he's going to have to, like, it's all psychological?
I think it's the second thing you said. Like,
Psychological?
yeah, like I don't know, I don't think it like his exposure to her blood would make it easier to necessarily shift back and forth. um I think, you know which is fine. Like I feel like that kind of stays true to the way it looks like in the comics. Like she seems to have that ability over him, although he is still technically stronger than
Mm-hmm.
her. Like they each have kind of, it's almost like a Loki Sylvie type of situation. They're similar, but they have their differences.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I'd stand. I would say it's more of like that psychological element,
Okay.
and but it does seem to be like a fit, like a physical barrier because she can't do it. He is stuck. Like he is still in his balance between the two.
So I know I've already said it, but I just want to admit that I was wrong, guys. It's not the blip. Are they done talking about the blip? Who knows? Maybe after Black Panther, but I don't know. I was hoping we were
I
gonna get a
was
little bit more blip talk.
I was so convinced because I mean I don't know, I was a little bitter that they so like nonchalantly and quickly like kind of like debunked the things that very solidly kept us in like this mid blip time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um and I don't know, and I wonder if it was purposeful because they know how our like maniacal minds work, and they're like, you know what, let's do this, and then we'll quickly like explain it, but just to kind of mess with them and where the timeline is, because I believe this was officially confirmed to have happened only just a few, like, just a little bit after Shang-Chi.
How do we know that?
It was announced.
Oh, by Feige.
Yep, the
Okay.
man.
Okay. Well, Feige, no, not Feige. Shang-Chi is not. It's not. I mean, right now in terms of timeline, I would think Shang-Chi's is in line with the story, like the story of like Hawkeye and everything kind of going forward. So
Yeah, it's presentish, you
right,
know?
it's presentish, right? So, I was thinking if anything, if there was gonna be a blip conversation, and come to find out, uh, if we thought that all this was happening during the blip, hence why his arm in the commercial wasn't injured, then I could have pictured it. I was picturing something different. That's all I'm really trying to say. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think our hypothesis was very stood on the information that we had, and I
Mm-hmm.
stand by it. I'm proud of us.
It's staying on the gram. You know what I'm saying, as predictions. So I'm not taking it
There we
down
go.
right now.
We
So.
win some,
Yep.
we lose some, you
Exactly.
know?
Exactly.
And that's all right. That's all right. But I was gonna say, and also I feel like, storytelling wise, I think it can make sense because, well, it makes sense because if anything, they're trying to leave the majority of the storytelling of what happened within the blip
Mm-hmm.
for like Secret Wars, which I am excited for. The more we get out of that, I'm happy.
Wait.
So maybe that's
Wait.
why.
Because.
Not Secret Wars. I'm so sorry. It's Secret Invasion.
Okay.
Thank you.
I was just.
Thank you.
I was like, wait. I think Secret Wars is gonna be way after.
Let me rephrase it all for all of you
Yeah,
in case
yeah,
it's
yeah. It's all good.
confusing.
It's all good.
I think they're
It is
saving.
confusing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's the MCU. It always is.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that they're saving the majority of like the blip talk for Secret Invasion at this point, which I'm excited for. I think it's going to give us so much of what we're like really excited to see, because that's a 5-year time that we're like, dude, we haven't really had any story from it, and it's such a like crazy time to be like living in, and I think it's cool that we're going to get it from something that's gonna be a lot more suspenseful, a lot more like not as cartoony as this is, which I think was one of the things that we talked about. Would it make sense? Like, why would they make something so cartoony, not cartoony in a bad sense, but just more lighthearted for a time period that everyone's meant to be suffering, so that part, I think it lines up.
So far, do we have anything past or present that has been during the blip?
um that does not take place during. We've had like references to, but that's as
Right.
much as I think we've gotten. We haven't had like, say, a whole series that takes place in the blip.
That's
That's
and
gonna
and that's
be.
what I feel like. Like I'm with Secret Invasion, but I think there's more to tell. Just because all we know about are the main heroes of the MCU. That we lost on Earth, right? But just like Moon Knight, or just like other characters that I feel like we found out didn't get blipped away or whatnot. I feel like there are other characters out there that have possibly lived during the blip, and if anything, we could get more story out of. I know I'm sounding a little repetitive because I feel like I said the exact same thing in one episode before, but the blip, I'm sure there's like plenty of story that they can build out of that.
And something too, what you're saying, I feel like Secret Invasion can still be like a stepping stone for all of those stories. Because keep in mind, like, we're going to touch upon like so many different characters in Secret Invasion, being that this is like a worldwide event,
Mm-hmm.
and it's gonna like connect and like cut and paste a lot of stories of a lot of different characters. So we might get like that satisfaction with that show still,
Yeah.
and touching with some of those characters that we hadn't seen for a while, or the ones that were, flipped, et cetera, or the ones that weren't, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I think we can still get that out of Secret Invasion. Like, I don't think, um, I don't think we're missing out on this show not having been placed in that time, you know?
Well, we should get more information even in this show because I think you mentioned that this show is going to have a ton of cameos throughout the season. So I'm sure with these cameos we'll learn something about their story in the blip, and who knows, maybe years down the line the MCU will decide to kind of go into those stories. Like if they're gonna
Yeah.
talk about Johnny Blaze for a moment, I want to know a little bit more about this version, not the Nick Cage version. Even though I'm not hating, but now this is a new Ghost Rider, you know. So I would like to know if they're gonna give us another Ghost Rider movie down the line.
Absolutely, absolutely. And before we get to the spaceship, there's a couple things that they mention. So first of all, the inhibitor is kind of a cool thing that is brought up because Bruce Banner mentioned that this is an inhibitor that is specific to him,
Mm-hmm.
which is why one, even though he made one, which is he established was challenging enough, he'd have to do it completely different if it was to work on Jennifer Walters.
Right.
But this is not the first time we've seen an inhibitor because they've used something similar in like Deadpool, where they have like this inhibitor for the mutants when they get
Mm-hmm.
put into like the cells to dim their powers. So I just thought it was cool because it's kind of a like a soft connection, but not really, but to different elements of like the MCU, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
Um, and I love that they threw in another fan theory into the mix because they've been doing this like recently, first with the whole Ant-Man going up Thanos' butt, and now with the whole Captain America was a virgin theory.
Mm.
And I thought that was so funny that they threw this in.
Well, of course, this is from the audience within the universe because we know the story of Captain Rogers after Endgame. You know, it's like we know of the story of him and Peggy eventually having kids down the line because I believe she said she had kids to the younger version of Steve when they saw each other or when they met each other in uh, Winter Soldier.
See, you're falling in that theory that it's a loop, which has not been disputed. Like, I think it's the writers that explain the whole, Steve Rogers going to the other like timeline and then as a loop, right? That he ends up being the same guy you see in the funeral scene in um the I think it's Civil War, whichever film that
I won't go as
that
far because I've seen those theories and those photoshopped images of Steve being at the funeral. I would think if anything, Steve lived that life with uh, what's her name again?
Peggy.
Peggy. If anything, if he was there, I would have think they would have kept it secret just because they want, if anything, the story of Steve Rogers dying. You know, so he kind of kept his, I would say, his identity discreet, and being that Peggy was still Shield, that was easy to maybe create a new identity for her husband. You know, so
Yeah. No, all I'm saying is that that's one of the theories of how that story like played out, which some of the writers have agreed on. And I don't know if it's Kevin Feige that disputed it and said no, it's a completely separate timeline and that's not Steve. But for either of the fans who stands on like one side or the other, you're justified by either the writers or like the directors. But regardless, like that's right. Like you're saying, like, oh, for the people of Earth, this is the theory. We'll live in that for a moment.
we can't. It can't be a moment. I don't give. Listen. Now I'm gonna argue with Kevin Feige just because Kevin Feige now has to explain how Old Man Steve Rogers gave the shield to Sam. That is what we need. He can't just dispute. Oh, he went to another timeline. No, like this is the same Steve Rogers now old because he's lived. He's like 200 by that point. You know what I'm saying? So he has lived his life with Peggy, and now he's old, and he gives his shield to Sam. So for Kevin Feige to dispute that, he needs to explain that aspect.
But keep in mind that theory would be debunked by how we understood time to happen in that like film when we saw that film, which is why it's not easily explained either way. Like either way, there's friction, is what I'm saying. And
There is no
now
other
it's
way.
like a
There's no
whole.
friction. I'm
There is
sorry.
other
Nope,
way.
nope. I will argue anybody down. I would love Feige. Listen.
What I'm saying is both theories can be like explained and validated, and for either side of the fandom there are people with authority that agree with you.
Yeah.
So if you want to live this, you know what, you're fully justified, because that
Okay,
is
where do you
one
stand,
side of the
Grace?
coin.
Where do you
I
stand?
don't know, because when I first watched it, right, when we first watched it with no other information, like back when we first watched Endgame, and what we know of time travel is just what we knew in that point, that theory, like the one that you like to lean on, would be easily disputed by the way that we understand time travel. It's not a loop. It's not like it's like your new past doesn't affect like your
Oh, here you
old
go.
like
You're
future
giving
that
me
didn't
the
all
Hulk.
that,
You're giving me the Hulk
because
speech.
that's the law. That was the law of time travel in that film. So your like side of the coin wouldn't line up with what we just learned to be the rule, right?
But
And
here's
so
how I can argue this, right? The only way that he would end up in a different timeline would be if I would say if the stone was never returned, because then it would branch off. But being that he returned every stone to where they were, and let's say by the end of it, the last stone that he returned was the space stone, the blue one, because that was the stone they end up stealing in that time where Peggy was still alive and young and youthful. He could have just returned it then and eventually just stayed there in that time and chose not to come back.
but then it would be a like a branched reality. But then like it's that's what I'm saying. It's like either side has friction, because if you say like the other flip of the coin, like let's just say like you follow that logic of like it wouldn't necessarily loop, because that's exactly what they said wouldn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Um then like the other option is like there's a possibility that they came across either something or someone that could connect them back to that timeline to gift back the shield. Like think of like I'm sorry, America Chavez, like a being like that. Like there's other ways it could have happened, and neither one is confirmed. And like I said, both like sides of the coins have friction, you know. So I'm just like, let the peace be the peace.
Nah, thank you, She-Hulk, for your extra little bonus scene of bringing this back, bringing this argument back.
So back to Captain America is a virgin. So it's no, but it's like Captain America being a virgin was like a theory for such a long time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being that like, you know, we see the events of the first Avenger, like Captain America, the first Avenger.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was kind of a loner beforehand. He wasn't getting the girls, and then when he got all like juicy, the Captain America, he was busy, you know, and then he gets thrown into the ocean
Oh
before
my
him and
goodness,
Peggy
you
even
have no
really
idea. You
become,
have no
and all the
idea,
things.
Grace. No, just because at the end of the day, say if it came down to it, right? Say the Steve Rogers in the first Captain America, where would you put him at in age?
I think they say it like he's around. I don't know.
Okay, let's
Is
say
he a?
let's
Is
say if
he?
he's
Yeah.
if he's like early to mid 20s, right?
Mhm.
Before he gets the super soldier serum, right? Early to mid 20s, you're a young guy. Hormones are raging, you know what I'm saying? And you can't get a girl to go out with you because you're small and puny. I would say by that point, let's say if he was 25, he'd probably pay for it.
Not, not cap. Not cap.
Uh-huh.
The cap that we know,
Uh-huh.
no, that's not. But listen, okay. Before you continue on your theories, this is explained in the mid-credit scene that I watched the
Mhm.
moment that you were setting everything up, because I
Mhm.
realized I learned about it like just before we started streaming. But anyways, that's the theory. It was like a running theory for a long time, and it's just so cool that they brought it in, because they've been doing that with a lot of different like theories that have come about. So it's exciting because it's like which one are they going to kind of bring in next?
Mhm.
But the end credit scene is basically it's Jennifer Walters and Hulk having this like quote unquote drunken conversation. We later learn like Jennifer Walters was just faking it, which makes sense because they can't get drunk. But she's like, poor Steve, like that ass died before being able to like have sex and all these things. It's a really funny scene. It's like 30 seconds. Go back and watch it.
Mm-hmm.
But Hulk is like, no, Steve did not die a virgin. He lost his virginity to a girl in 1943 on the USO tour.
I'm saying, Steve, after the first Avengers, the one girl who got interviewed in the news, he probably linked up with her a little later. She was like all over him. I'm gonna give Steve.
You know, she was supposed to be. No. She was supposed to be a love interest for him. Like, that was the storyline they were gonna do, and then they scrapped it. So yeah, like, maybe in the back end it happened.
Yep.
Dude.
Yep.
Come on. It's like you said, the hormones are raging. He's not
I would listen if I were frozen for however long he was, and then come to find out I don't know anybody. I'm brand new in the game. You know what I'm saying? They don't know my history, my credit, and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, everything's new, and I'm jacked.
Dude,
I'm Captain America.
I mean, not that he needs the sympathy to do those things, but
yeah.
You know, yeah, it's funny. But it has set the record. He did not die a virgin.
Okay, that's true.
There we go.
Yep, I'm with that.
And also, he didn't even die.
He's still alive.
Because despite whatever theory you want to go off, at the end of Endgame, he's not dead.
Mm-hmm.
You know. But yeah, moving on from here though.
Okay. Moving on from the post-credit scene. Yeah. Thanks, Feige. That's actually all of this is Kevin Feige's fault. Okay, he put this in there, like he approved of it, and he contradicted the other thing, that the actual theory in itself. So at the end of the day, this is all at his fault. You know what I'm saying?
I can make a whole reel of you just blaming Kevin Feige.
He deserves it.
They will use it in evidence if he ever goes missing.
Let's do a 2022 wrap up of when I was just beefing with Feige.
Done. And then we'll do it. We'll have to. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Done. It's gonna happen. There we go. We'll do it. Okay. So we've talked about the car accident. Now, no, we need to talk about the spaceship.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big one.
Sure.
You wanna kick it off?
Sure. So say at first glance, I knew it looked just like the spaceship from Thor Ragnarok. It was, and then Hulk confirmed it. He's like, oh, that's the Sakaran class spaceship, and that belonged to I don't want to say the Collector, because Collector is his brother. What's his actual name?
It's the. Why can't I think of it? I'm looking it up.
What is
the
his
Grand
name?
Master?
The Grand Master, yeah, because that's his
yeah.
ship, exactly. So, we get the Grand Master's ship. We don't. Well, first off, we don't know if it's his because he is a collector himself, and I'm sure he probably bought that spaceship. So, who knows? It could just be like a Corolla tour, or somebody else just has another version of that ship, just like the Ravagers. I feel like all the Ravagers have the same type of ships as well. So. With that being said, we honestly don't know who it could be. It's just somebody with the same make and model, or if anything, it could be the Grand Master. So, I'm curious just to see where that story goes, because Bruce Banner said he is going to investigate that. But who's to say if that's going to happen on this show? What do you think?
All right. So first of all, okay, at the beginning of this episode, they used the word hulking, I think, as a verb or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But hulking is the name of I think it's Bruce Banner's nephew. He's the one who ends up, I think, with one of Wanda's sons.
Okay.
So for me, that was just a little. I'm like, oh, that's cool. They're nudging over to kind of the family of Hulk, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the family of Hulk is much greater than that, because then this leads into storylines like Planet Hulk and World War Hulk or something like that. We talked about this not too long ago, the possibility of getting more Hulk stories beyond just She-Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
But then we get this, right? So there's a couple of theories. One of them being that, Hulk and Thor kind of left a mess of the car. And so maybe this is some type of not necessarily revenge, but an aftermath of their events on Sakaar,
mm-hmm.
right? And Ragnarok, etc. And a branch off that theory is some people are wondering if this is Hulk's son. because in the comics,
Mm.
when Hulk goes off world, he falls in love with someone, she is pregnant, she dies, and then things happen. Hulk goes back to Earth, etc., etc. But little does he know, the baby actually survived. Like he ended up in this like, cocoon thing and ended up emerging. And I think his name is Scar. And I think he's more of like a villain than anything, like an antagonist.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are wondering if this has any connections with them trying to build the family of Hulk. You know, and so it's TBD for now, but it's definitely like a very, very loose, like a very loose string. And I love how nonchalant Hulk is about it. He's like, when you're a Hulk, these things tend to happen, you know?
Well, I love that idea now that you just said that, just because with him being on Sakaar for 2 years, right? And this is not Bruce Banner, but this is the Hulk. And obviously now, after seeing Ragnarok, this is the Hulk of no shame, who gets out of hot tubs super jacked and super naked or whatnot. I'm sure the Grand Master pretty much fed this Hulk's ego to the point, probably gave him not only food but women as well. And then, if anything, maybe had a little offspring from that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So it makes so much sense, and I do love that he emphasizes the fact, like, hey, I was stuck as Hulk for 2 years. For those of you who happen to forget, the events of Ragnarok, and so it's kind of emphasizing like how long he was as Hulk,
Mhm.
and that there's still unfinished business in Sakaar.
Mhm.
Could this just be beef because of them kind of leaving a mess on their exit, or could it be because he has an offspring? We don't know yet, but I really hope they do give us an answer, at least an inkling of which way it's going to be towards the end of the series, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I love it. I love that whole aspect of bringing that back. And if anything, if that is a part of this series, great. I'm all for it. But if not, I'm all for whatever they decide to do, whether if it's an actual show or movie on just Family Hulk.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mhm.
And so we kind of talked about how, Jennifer was like wandering for a while in her first transformations as Hulk, and then she ends up in this like little Mexican cabana that like Hulk had, and we learned that Tony actually kind of built this bunker for him, you
Mhm.
know? Um, some like an Easter egg that I saw, and I haven't looked back to confirm, but there's a Iron Man helmet, not even a helmet, but just the mask that is in
It's
the
hold on,
background.
hold
Do
on.
you have it?
I don't have an image of it, but it's not Iron Man.
It's not Iron Man?
Mm-mm.
What is it?
It is the first bot that Ultron took over, that they end up
No!
destroying. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yep.
see, I think you would have loved what I thought it was. Okay, so being that I initially thought it was like just like the face portion of Iron Man's mask,
Mm-hmm.
I thought that this was the piece that Hulk ripped off in the first Avengers, where you don't know if like Iron Man died or not because he
Mm-hmm.
just fell from the building, and then Hulk rips it off, and then they do whatever. But
Right.
I thought that was the mask, and that he saved it, and I thought that was so sweet because he kind of talks a little bit about like him and Tony, and then you see the engravings of like BB plus um TS, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just it was to me it was so cool because I thought it was emphasizing the relationship that we kind of just haven't really thought about in a long time.
Yeah.
Because they had a sweet relationship. Like Tony was the one to tell him like, hey, like this probably happened for a reason. We don't know why, but it's gonna like it will come around. And then in Endgame, Hulk says those same words, so you know that it resonated a lot with him. Like I know, regardless, we have still those little inklings to his relationship with Tony, but I think yours makes more sense because it had a hue of like a more silver, less, and it didn't have like the yellow,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to look back, but
Well, it looked like it could have been because it looked like it was maybe painted for now decoration, but just from its actual look and shape of it, it's definitely like the helmet of the bot that crashed
The bot.
the party, basically.
Dang.
Yep.
Damn. Mm.
Yep. But no,
You just,
I'm with you.
yeah.
I agree with you in terms of like since the first Avengers, it was never like uh who's smarter than the other. Like they've always had a respect for one another, Tony and Bruce Banner. So if anything, they were let's say brothers in intellect, you know. So I get it, and I'm sure if now I'm gonna talk if I know Bruce Banner, but I'm sure he misses Tony just because he was the one that he worked with the most in all of the Avengers shenanigans.
Yeah, and I think it's a friendship that's easy to overlook because there's been a lot of space or gap between when we've seen them on screen together,
Mm-hmm.
because how the way that I'm sorry, that Age of Ultron ended, and we didn't really see them go face to face again until Endgame, and I'm sorry, Infinity War, and it was super brief,
Mm-hmm.
So it's a friendship that's so easy to overlook, but I like that regardless of the fact that this is not the mask I thought it was. You still have those moments of him mentioning like Tony built this for me. And you see the engravings of like their initials,
Yeah.
and I love that because it's like I said, it's easy to overlook, but it means so much.
Yeah, definitely. And just kind of thinking about Endgame, I'm kind of thinking about how initially, not Endgame, Infinity War, how it started, and Doctor Strange shows up, and Tony's just doesn't believe a word he says, and it isn't until he sees Bruce, you know, and then like the
Yeah.
look and feel of it, it was just like, oh Bruce, like I missed you, man. Like it's like you got that, even though Bruce was coming with like some distressing news. It's just like you kind of felt that Tony kind of missed him in that moment, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And still on the hideout, I let's see where folks went the flip. Wait, map, okay, Tony. Hold on. Oh, just kidding. Here is when we kind of start to get a little bit more of the explanation that Hulk was able to kind of gather with like the DNA analysis and everything while
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer was knocked out. Um, and the way they explain it is just that there's a rare combination of many genetic factors that synthesize gamma that they both have, which is why the gamma radiation doesn't isn't lethal to either of them.
Mm-hmm.
Which is pretty cool, and kind of leaning back to how potent Banner's blood is, right? Because it was like if you look at the scene where like Jennifer Walters gets contaminated, it's like the moment it touches her like open wound, it starts to turn green. Like that's how quickly his blood can just kind of change everything, you know? And it's just it's cool to kind of just see the strength of the Hulk gene, if you will, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Well,
And I like the way that they explained it.
I don't think she would be the first, being that, like, I know you kind of, you don't associate the Incredible Hulk movie in the MCU, but in that movie, the doctor who seemed to be Bruce Banner's friend, he had been, I think, injecting himself with Bruce Banner's blood to the point to where he lived through it too, and I think he was about to transform, but we didn't get that transformation in that movie. So I feel like if anything, if that story were still to be relevant in this universe, uh, like he kind of made it clear of like lasering the blood sample of his cousin, but I think his blood is still out there because that doctor still had the samples of his.
That's so true.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, man. And being that we're gonna see Abomination too, maybe they'll talk more about it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
maybe they'll talk more about it, and I hope they do. I do, and you already know, like I kind of erased the Incredible Hulk out of my memory, so I
Yeah.
often do forget like the two lores exist in the same world. So good point to make, and I think we got to look out for it because we know Abomination's going to come into the mix too. So I think
Definitely.
it's gonna be relevant for sure.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. We already talked about how, Hulk being Hulk and has been in Hulk form for over, like, basically like a decade and a half.
Mm-hmm.
He's ready to kind of be, leading Jennifer Walters in this new step of her, like, journey now that she is also a Hulk. We
Mm-hmm.
talked about how she responded to him, how we felt about her having, like, a little bit quicker and easier of an experience than he ever did.
Yeah.
And let's see. Oh, there is this quote that I wanted to share because I was looking at both of these characters, their comic book counterpart, um, like Marvel wiki that they
Mhm.
have.
Mhm.
And they have a quote for Jennifer Walters, and she says this in like the comics. But she says the people you fight to protect sometimes fear and hate you, and it's the hardest part because sometimes to protect what you love, you have to walk away from it. And I feel like this was just such a perfect quote to explain what it is that Bruce had to go through and his experience that he's trying to kind of get her to understand that she doesn't.
Mhm.
And I just felt like that quote kind of summed it all up. And it's why we feel the way we feel about how she's able to just do it so easily with little respect to his experience, you
Right.
know?
Right. But we're gonna see those feelings change for sure now that she's transformed in the courtroom and everybody knows that she's a Hulk because as of right now she is a Hulk that hasn't been, let's say, quote unquote battle tested, and I'm not talking like just battle tested by anything like from aliens or soldiers or anything like that. We're gonna get how the life of living in the world now, finding out that you're a superhero that Bruce is kind of warning her about, we're gonna see that kind of go under like a microscope here in each episode.
Yeah, and I think he gives her like basically like the with great power comes great responsibility talk, because she's not understanding like now that you have these powers, like you can't just like let bad things happen and walk away because it's kind of
Right.
like what Spider-Man says when we first see him in Civil War, because when the bad things happen and you don't do anything, they happen because of you.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately in the end she does like call to action and turn into She-Hulk
Right.
when the time like needed it.
Yeah, because if she didn't, then if things were to go wrong and then people died, then that's on her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I love
Mm-hmm.
this. I literally just watched, like I was saying at the beginning of this episode, I was watching Spider-Man, No Way Home. So when I watched this, like immediately after, I was just like, I had paused it on the Aunt May like passing
Mm-hmm.
scene, so it was so fresh. So when he was like having that conversation with her, I was just like, ugh, Aunt May.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's I don't know. I'm loving all the themes here. I love that they made like this parallel to Cap also, where like they mentioned that our bodies can metabolize alcohol at a really fast rate, so you don't get a buzz. That's the same thing Cap experiences, right?
I'm just gonna assume
Um,
every super soldier just metabolizes alcohol and they can't get drunk like ever.
None of them can
Yep.
get drunk.
Yep.
None of them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's see. Uh, I'm looking at all stuff. Okay. And ultimately, when they do part ways, Jen and Bruce kind of leave in a sense like he's like, I trust you, and like I think they leave on mutual terms.
Mm-hmm.
And I do love because like their relationship in the comics is so important for both of their characters. Like when they were young, they were constantly studying together. Like there's mention that they would stay like overnight at the library to keep Bruce away from his like abusive father, and she would be
Oh
there with
shit.
them. So they have like a lot of history together, and you can see that they're very close. She is hurt by the fact that he had to be away for so long, and obviously she doesn't really understand it fully why, but she will, as she progresses in her story as a Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
um and so I do like how they left off. Like despite all like the friction, I like that they left off on good terms because I feel like inevitably at some point she's gonna feel like she needs him,
Yeah. Yeah.
like I feel like it's gonna happen.
I'm thinking just how is Thunderbolt just gonna become the Red Hulk now? All this Hulk talk, I'm thinking of all the different versions of Hulk in stories and whatnot. So I'm just like, is he gonna get a vial of like abomination juice or just like some Banner juice? Like I want to know. Kevin Feige, tell us, let us know.
It it just continues. It's gonna be crazy. But I like that we're getting like these small nudges to assume that they are gonna build out the Hulk family because when
Hmm.
we talked about it like not too many weeks ago, I was really like, I don't know. I feel like they were kind of starting to maybe um slow down his story because they had like built up maybe this potential love story between her and him and Nat that they never really did much for, and then we didn't really see too much of him, and he wasn't really in the battle scene of Infinity War. So to me, it was feeling like they were sadly maybe trying to like pull him out of the spotlight. But I think after this first episode, I feel like that's definitely not the case, and they're definitely planning to do more with this character, which makes me very happy.
I think right now, Bruce Banner, he holds the title for lost relationships.
Man, our boy can't catch a break.
He can't.
And this is why we're like so triggered by like Jennifer Walters in like the middle part of this episode, because we're like, don't you know like the pain that this man had to go through, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like the 15 years of information he accumulated on this huge binder that he's basically like, well, that goes to waste, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. I'm excited. I do love that they're not afraid to give us the Jennifer Walters that we're like not like that we don't love everything about like that part of it, like kind of her ignorance of like the negative effects of having this other half now, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, like I'm obsessed with this character in that like I think it's just like her, like she's very witty, she's very funny, like I like her banter between Hulk, and I love that she has such an emphasis on like her like career path in this sense, because she's like, you don't get it. I have things to do. I can't let this like Hulk weigh me down, you know. um
That's the
Also,
one
did
thing
you notice
about
like in
just.
the, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that's just one thing about lawyers. You know what I'm saying? They're just very good with words. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to say they're super smart, but they're they talk as if they talk with that arrogance to the point to where they may be right, but you just hate them because of it. And
Is that
like,
what it is?
yeah, like
Dude.
like and because that's what they do for a living. Like you have to convince like the jury that you're right just so the other lawyer loses, you know. So at the end of the day, I feel like she, being that she does that for a living, she gave that to Bruce just out of like a natural reaction. And like him saying, yo, you're not gonna lose, you're not gonna leave here talking to me that way, I would feel the same thing, be like, whoa there, you better check yourself. I'm still in Hulk form. I will smash you right here. Pause. But I will.
Yes.
I will smash him, saying. So.
I love this analysis so much.
Yep.
So much. And I feel like it's so in tune with her character. Everything about that. I love it.
Yeah.
I was
We're.
gonna
I want to see. I'm sorry. I just want to see that reaction, or more so now that interaction between someone, another lawyer who's more so soft spoken, who's not really on that, which is Matt Murdock. So we know that's coming. So we're gonna
yeah.
see how that goes later on.
I'm excited. I'm excited for it. Like I love this character already from like the first episode. I can't wait for her to interact with other characters. One of them being Matt Murdock, which I just can't wait because it's confirmed that he's gonna be in it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I it's just it's really good. I was gonna mention one of the things that has irked me about the series, and not like a big irk, but just like the mildest of like complaints.
Okay.
How do you feel about Titania?
What do you mean?
The villain. She appears at the very end.
I didn't even know that was her name.
So she's meant to be like the main villain, I believe, in this series.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the wardrobe that just really throws it off for me and makes it look really low quality,
Mm-hmm.
that it kind of bothers me. I
I
don't
need I
know.
need more to
Do you know what
judge,
I'm saying?
like, cause I only got to see her for I think maybe 30 seconds. So I need more before I say anything. Like because
Yeah.
we you and me we had a conversation about liking this actress from The Good Place, you know. But um, yeah, all I saw was her rush in, break into a courtroom, and then She-Hulk handled that real quick with the quickness, and that was that. Like, so I think I need more as far as character to understand her wardrobe.
The character, I'm sure she will do just fine,
Mm-hmm.
because like I like the actress. I feel like she's gonna do well with the role. I really like the way that she spoke about her character on like the panel for She-Hulk and Comic Con. So, but it's like it's the one little like kind of thorn I have, that I'm just like, I feel like the outfit makes it look so cheap. I don't know what it is. I'll see if I can analyze my own thoughts for next time I explain further. But
You
I
out
don't
here
know. There's
judging
something about
clothes?
the way that they do it. I am judging clothes, man. I am judging it.
Okay.
Um, it's just I don't like it. I don't like it, but I'm sure they'll do just fine. It's just like my only thorn of the series so far is like I'm not a fan of like the way that they dress this like villain.
Okay, well, who's to say then that's her character? She dresses like that. Okay,
I'll take
we're
it.
gonna see if she just dresses cheap throughout the rest of the season. But I don't think
Maybe that's why she's like breaking into this courtroom. Maybe she thought it was a bank. She needed to buy things for her new
she's
wardrobe.
walling. Either way, I don't think I had anything else. I just know I missed the end credit scene, but I ended up hearing everything. Like I actually listened to it while you were watching it just now, before the show, and so far episode one of one. It's a plus. It's a win. Like I said, it was needed after Miss Marvel for me.
Absolutely. I'm so excited about it. I think this is gonna follow like their normal schedule. Oh no, it's releasing on Thursdays now, right? Because I think they
It came out
had
yesterday, and I
delayed it
thought it
a
was weird.
day.
Like, so is it on Thursdays now, or was it just like this week?
I don't know because originally it was set to release on a Wednesday, and I made a joke. I was like, dude, I bet like they're trying to fix the last minute animation things because they pushed their team that hard that it's like on the fence kind of a
Mm-hmm.
thing, and maybe that's why they pushed it to just one day. But maybe it is that they're just gonna stream it every Thursday now instead of Wednesdays. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Um, scheduling wise, what about the I Am Groot series? Is that out already?
Iron Brute. Let
No,
me
I
see.
Am Groot.
Oh, I was like, I've never heard of Iron Brute, but it sounds like a great show. I Am Groot has released the first episode, I believe. But they're very short, very little plot, but super, super cute and entertaining because you get a lot more of Baby Groot. Um, yes.
So is it like that? Like that's what I'm kind of thinking. Like, is that on Wednesdays and now She-Hulk is on Thursdays? Like that's what I was asking. Has that series already ended, or like, what do you think?
I'm trying to see. Nothing on the immediate to say. I'm not sure. It's weird. I feel like it wouldn't have been too weird for them just to release both things on the same day, but maybe that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
But the I Am Groot was released not this week. I believe it was released last week
Mm-hmm.
because I watched it over the weekend. So even then, like it's not like it needed to be pushed so that I Am Groot comes out Wednesday and then She-Hulk comes out Thursday. You know, so it's interesting. I'm not sure what they're doing with that.
I Am Groot is a series, right?
Yeah, it's like it's gonna be like a little mini clip series.
Okay. And that's where my confusion lies, because being that they just released a series last Wednesday and then now a new series like yesterday, like you said, it's weird that they're doing that. So I don't know if like I Am Groot is like on the official Disney schedule of what comes out on Wednesdays, or it's just something that they're kind of throwing out there, and really the main show of this season is She-Hulk.
I think just to answer, like the main show of this season, if you will, is
Yeah.
She-Hulk. Because the I Am Groots, they're gonna be, I think it's five total. They're super, super short. I don't really think it's gonna add much for plot wise. I think it's just to be like a fun addition to the roster of things that Marvel is releasing.
Yeah.
Because I watched the first one and I don't think I got much plot out of it. It was entertaining, but I think that was it. And I feel like they were only like 5 minutes long, if that. It's very short.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think that's all I have. I don't think I have. Yeah. Yeah. I don't have any other notes on She-Hulk. Two thumbs up.
Two thumbs up.
Yep.
It's a
Yep.
good
Yep.
day. It's good. Good first episode for both of these, Sandman and She-Hulk.
Mhm.
I'm excited to explore all of these things, and I feel like when it comes to She-Hulk, with this one episode, I feel like they established this super cool character, and then they also like created more storylines out of something I didn't really think we were going to get more story from, which is like Ragnarok. Like I really haven't thought much about what can continue from there,
Yep.
and they're doing what Marvel does, which is grabbing stuff from things that were established years ago and making it relevant somehow,
Yep.
in a good way.
Yep. Definitely in a good way. Okay. Well, that was today's episode, everybody. we're going to be back on our regular scheduled program. Sorry again about last week for missing us. Again, I'll take all the blame. It was my fault. I had to celebrate life for a second.
As you should.
And
As you should.
but we're back. So next week we're going to be chatting about episode 2 of both shows, and we're just going to continue to go week for week for each episode. So thank you all for tuning in. You all have a good weekend, and Grace, you as well. You have the greatest of weekends as well.
Thank you. You as well. Have a good one, guys.
Thank you.
Lots of fun.
For sure.
Have a good one,
all right,
guys.
Laters.